seems like the thing is working theoretically. Okay, so Connie provided the introduction for the course. She noted that the ARD, the Alliance for Rural Democracy, has been working with LARC, which keeps on changing its name, LARC, Rural Women's Action Research Program, but if you're confused about who LARC is, Ninka, Nolundi, and all the other comrades from Cape Town who have now set up this new center. Phuhlisani is myself, Iva, Ursula in the back, and then Plas is not here at the moment, but we're going to be having people coming from Plas later on. Okay, so the background. Basically, we've tried to design this for activists, people on the ground, from the ARD, but not exclusively from the ARD. So we've thrown out the invitation widely to other people who are working in different movements. You'll see on your table you've got a report there, which comes from a grouping in the Eastern Cape. So we're trying to open up the space for all people working in the former Bantustan areas. So what we're going to try and do in the course is to look at the past and the present. We're going to try and look at the historical and the contemporary struggles of rural people to reverse dispossession of land, to tackle the elite capture of mineral rights, wealth, and power, and to oppose the imposition of unrepresentative and unaccountable leadership, which is based on distorted renderings of custom and tradition. And in this process, what we're going to try to think about is something that I came across the other day from a Nigerian novelist. And she recently gave a talk, I think in 2013, where she spoke about what she called the danger of the single story.
I'm a storyteller, and I would like to tell you a few personal stories about what I like to call the danger of the single story. So that is how to create a single story. Show a people as one thing, as only one thing, over and over again, and that is what they become. It is impossible to talk about the single story without talking about power. There is a word, an Igbo word, that I think about whenever I think about the power structures of the world, and it is nkali. It's a noun that loosely translates to be greater than another. Like our economic and political worlds, stories too are defined by the principle of nkali. How they are told, who tells them, when they are told, how many stories are told, are really dependent on power. Power is the ability not just to tell the story of another person, but to make it the definitive story of that person.
So what we tried to do in the design of this course is to get a conversation going between those people who study things, who research, who write about things, and people who live those things every day. Okay, so that's the nature of our conversation. And in the process, we're going to try to be alert to the issues of power. In other words, who tells the stories, who holds the space, who speaks for other people. And I'd like you all to be alert and to rein us in as facilitators if you're feeling unhappy about the balance, because this is a delicate balance to try and strike. Okay, so the focus is about creating a space for rural activists from different provinces to share their knowledge, experiences, and strategies of struggle, and for us to equip each other with essential knowledge of history, policy, law, and local struggles, both in the past and in the present. And we're not doing this just for an academic exercise. The idea of behind the whole course, as Connie has said in the introduction, and the energy that's in the ARD, is to contest these things. So we are learning in order to organize, in order to more effectively contest and reverse the loss of land, expose and resist policies and laws that threaten rural democracy, and to do things positive, to identify and promote social justice and economic alternatives which decisively combat poverty and inequality. So it's been designed as part of a pilot program, and the pilot, you've heard about the people that are involved. And the pilot is also working very closely in the Mapila area. We've got people from Mapila in Limpopo. And there are going to be other learning processes which are not national in scope, but which are local, where we're going to look at a particular area, and we're going to look at the particular history of that area, and we're going to try to deal with the issues and struggles that people in that space are confronting. Okay, the other thing to note is that I'm not sure whether people are familiar with Creative Commons licenses, but all of the materials that are in this course, all of the presenters that are coming, have said that their materials are going to be freely available under this license. Okay, so that we're going to put together all of the materials which will be available at the end of the course online. You'll be able to download it. And any NGO or any organization is free to reuse these materials, to edit them, to change them. The only condition is that you acknowledge the people who did it in the first place, and you do not try to sell the materials or make money out of it. Okay, because the whole idea here is that knowledge is or should be free. Okay, so that's the background. And the program overview I'm just going to do today because we're running out of time. You've got in your course guide, you've got the whole process. So today we're going to have another couple of short activities just around the learning environment that we want to create before we break for tea. And then after that we're going to hand over to Reverend Mavuso, and we're starting our stories on the ground. Okay, we're starting with contemporary struggles in KwaZulu-Natal, and we're looking at the role of the Ingonyama Trust and the issues of mining, the issues of land rights, the issues of democracy, rural democracy and control. And Reverend Mavuso is going to tell his story and the story of the people that he's working with to help us begin to understand that story that's coming from KZN. Now, why I say the danger of a single story is that in this room we have multiple stories, we have multiple contexts. People are working in different settings, different histories, different institutions. So when we're trying to understand what happens in the rural space, we need to start putting those stories together. Okay, then we're going to have a presentation just before lunch by Dr. Michelle Hay from WITS, and she's going to be talking about the roots of dispossession and the construction of customs. So we're going to be going back now to the 19th century, not to the Land Acts. We're going to come to that. So the rest of the course follows a sort of a chronology. We're going to follow a timeline. So we're going to go back in history. And you guys with your histories that you've spoken about already, I'm sure are going to have many things to add to what Michelle is going to present. Okay, then after lunch we're going to have an activity where we're going to get you to construct a land and rural governance timeline. We're going to give you a pack of cards with a whole lot of acts over the last century and a bit, and we're going to ask you to try and put them in order to try and tell some sort of a story, to try and see how they all fit together. And it's quite a difficult activity. We gave it to Ninka, who's like a specialist in this area, and she said she couldn't do it. So well, she could do some of it, I think. So you'll have to see how well you do. But the thing is not to find the exact year. It's more about the decades. What happened in the early 1900s, the 1920s, coming right up until the transition. And then this afternoon, we're going to have another presentation that's going to focus on land and labor in the 20th century from Dr. Manda Mulawadzi from UCT. And all of these things, hopefully, we're going to have the opportunity for discussion to engage with the presenters. Okay, so that's the day. And likewise for the evaluation later on, those people who have devices, we can send you a link to a form which you can complete online. Okay, so again, we're going to try and make the whole thing as simple as possible. Okay, so each day we'll have a different theme, and you'll see from having a read of your own course manual that we're going to be telling stories as we go from different perspectives about different things, coming from the past right up to the present. Okay, so by the time we're on day 5, we're going to be dealing with a whole lot of contemporary issues.